Jason Redman, all the way from Virginia. Welcome back to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Dude, I am amazing. It's Monday. I love Mondays because it's the first day I can crush my week.
Because you're a former SEAL and you're just weird, all right? But normal people don't like Mondays, man. What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm trying to change that mindset, man. I'm trying to show them, man, we want to be proactive, not reactive. We get out there and we attack it. We set the tone for the entire week on Monday.
Nice. Well, we met virtually a few years ago. You were helping me when I was doing my SEAL week, getting ready for one of my Tampa Bay Frogman swims. This year, I paused the January swim because I'm doing the July San Francisco Frogman swim.
Nice. I was going to say that's a better choice, but then I heard San Francisco, and the water's cold up there no matter what.
It's cold regardless. And I miss Tampa Bay, so I'm going back next year. Maybe I'll just do both. But, yeah, I appreciate you coming on and helping me bring some awareness, raise some funds for that. But I will link to your first interview. But, man, you've had a few things going on since then. You came out with your book, right, The Trident, The Forging and Reforging of a Navy SEAL Leader. You've launched your own podcast, JR Overcome Show, and you got another book coming out, right? That just before we hit record, you said you've got the first draft due this week?
That's right. So really excited. This is definitely a business self-help focused book, teaching people how to lead themselves out of crisis, failure, adversity, and through change, and really built around the principles of how we effectively lead ourselves, which directly translate into our ability to lead others.
I mean, I don't know what makes you qualified for this. I mean, you did a little stint in the military, swam in the water. You got shot a few times. I mean, does that really make you qualified to discuss this kind of stuff?
I read a self-help book once, so that's I kind of think. And I found this leadership card in a Cracker Jack box. Those two things qualify me.
Bam! And I once read a blog post, 37 ways to motivate yourself on Monday. Now I'm a keynote speaker, baby. All right.
That's right.
Very nice. So let's talk about that, though. I mean, your career was cut short, but you overcame a tremendous amount of adversity. I remember reading or listening to you the first time. You were saying people would look at you traveling, through airports, going for multiple surgeries. You were shot in the face, and people were looking. You had a shirt that said something like, "What? I was shot 7 times. You would have died." Yeah.
They're a little definitely in your face back then, but that was the creation of Wounded Wear, and kind of launched that and ran that company for almost 10 years, and we phased that down in 2018, and now I've fully shifted to the leadership development, team development, consulting, and now launching into both individual and company coaching.
Right. And I mean, most people, fortunately, will not be faced with such dire situations to overcome, but we still feel pity for ourselves, right? I mean, how do people find it within themselves, to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, stop feeling sorry for themselves, and go back and rebuild?
And this is really the core of my new book, Overcome, that'll come out in December. There's a lot of different things that need to happen to build that, what I call the overcome mindset. Really, one of the biggest first things that has to happen is you got to gain a little bit of perspective. You have to understand, I don't know what it is about human beings, and I'm guilty. I don't care if you're a Navy SEAL, a police officer, if you're a doctor, if you're a teacher, human beings operate the same way. And part of that path is a little bit of suffering. And we have this natural tendency that when things go wrong and we're going through suffering, to just focus inward. When we focus on this struggle and strife that we're going through, perspective helps us to kind of look outside our world and come to realize, hey, I'm not the only one that's been through this. Not only that, there's plenty of other people that have been through much worse than I've been through. And if I can find other people that have been through something similar or even something worse, they can help motivate and inspire me to get out of that. So that's kind of one of the big things I try to explain to people. The second thing is we have a natural tendency when we have some sort of dire, catastrophic crisis event, a failure, we're going through a hard time, what I call life ambushes. And the reason I do that is because I was fortunate enough to not only train on how to execute ambushes against the enemy for many, many years as a SEAL. I also have the unique position that I found myself in the crosshairs of a very, very effective Al-Qaeda enemy ambush. And so I would definitely say I am an expert on the mechanics of an ambush. And the interesting thing about an ambush is both from the sending end of someone executing the ambush to the target, the individual that was on the ambush, the mechanics are the same. We are trying to pin someone down to that point of attack, what is called the X. And the goal is to pin that person down and utterly overwhelm them and get them to the point where they're unwilling to fight back because it's just so overwhelming in the moment. And I have to tell you, when I was in that ambush and, I'm getting shot, my buddies are getting shot, and it's just so overwhelming, there was that natural tendency. I make this correlation between life ambushes because when we have bad things happen, and when I talk about the scale of bad things happening, they can be something as small as a failure of a relationship. And I say small because I know a lot of people out there are like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I'm going through a divorce. There's nothing small about that. But as we start to go up in the level of catastrophic events in life, business failure, unexpected loss of a job when you're the primary breadwinner for your company, life-threatening illness or accident to you, life-threatening illness or accident to someone in your family, the unexpected loss of a loved one. And then one of the biggest impacts I've seen is the unexpected loss of a child. Interestingly enough, the mechanics of this life ambush are the same. People have a natural tendency to hunker down on the X, feel sorry for themselves, and they really struggle to move forward out of this point. We have a natural tendency to kind of look back at what we've lost instead of looking forward at where we need to go and how we need to move forward. Basically, how you survive an ambush is you have to get off the X. And this is really the foundational principle that I'm teaching. So number one is perspective. Number two is you have to assess and start looking forward and say, I've got to get off the X. I can't just sit there because what's happened in the past is gone. You can't go back and change it, whether it's failure, crisis, loss, massive adversity, whatever it is, you got to get off the X.
Yeah. We had 1 week of ground training at the Air Force Academy. And, we're in the woods of Colorado, and it may have been part of SEER training. I don't even remember, but they taught us that on an ambush. And I remember the guy we had, some staff sergeant, he made us scream out "Scunion onion." He's like, when you get the ambush, basically that was our charge.
Right.
We would scream, and it always stuck with me. Attack the ambush. They want you to sit down. They want you to be scared. They're not ready for you to attack them.
Right.
And it just, I don't know, I was 18, 19 years old, and it's always stuck with me. But it's easier said than done. I've never literally been shot at. So I don't know if I could run forward into it. I haven't been divorced. I've lost many jobs. So from that standpoint, I could talk about, I've lost businesses. And so, I can relate. Just sitting around, nothing good happens when you're sitting still, huh?
No, it pulls you deeper down onto the X. I describe it a little bit like quicksand. The longer you sit on it, the deeper it'll pull you down, and the harder it is to get off of it. And obviously, if you look at timelines are relative. So if you've lost a child, I am not expecting someone to immediately get off the X. That's unrealistic. But they also are going to reach a point where they do have to move. They have to recognize. So many people, when they've had some catastrophic loss, whether it's in business or whether it's in a personal relationship or a loss, they wait so long. They get sucked down with grief, and then they start to create these false beliefs. I've seen this a lot with our Gold Star families that have lost a loved one. They start to place these unrealistic expectations on themselves, like I'm not allowed to be happy, or they feel guilty to be happy because they've lost someone. I should not be happy because I should just be, sad forever. And that's not true. So that's a little bit of helping them to get off the X, how to understand. And sometimes, just like I needed help to get off that X of my ambush, so many people often need help to get off their ambush and move forward also. So you talk about, attacking into the attacking into the ambush. You're absolutely right. But that's not always the best answer. Sometimes we just need to move away. Sometimes we need to find cover immediately because we know there's a place that we can relieve that pressure for a few minutes, so then we can make a better decision. And all of these things apply in life. They're all relatable. I have watched individuals, someone who has lost a child who, this is the correlation that I make, they did attack back into that fire, because those individuals actually went forth and started their own nonprofit to help other families that had lost a child. So now they had taken this amazing catastrophic event, and it didn't define them or crush them. It became their new purpose in life. And now they were helping other people, and they were honoring their lost son because of this life ambush, not in spite of it.
Yeah, I remember it hit me years ago. The guy was the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at his wedding. And he was a pilot. And when we were still single, he put a clause in his insurance policy that we all got, right? And pilots got them. And he said, if he died, there was 10 grand set aside for like 8 of us. There were 8 or 9 of us, so that were really tight. So for the 8 of us remaining, to fly to his funeral and throw a big ass party. He's like, don't be crying over me. I was like, that made an impact. That was 25 years ago. Yeah. And so, I like the message, right? It's like, don't cry over me, man. Get up and get after it. 'Cause you're right. And I've seen some of that in my 5 years of working with the Navy SEAL Foundation. Some hold on to it, hold on to the loss. How do you shake somebody loose? How do you knock those cobwebs out when somebody is holding on to that loss, a business, a family member, what have you?
You got to show them it is a choice. And that is the reality of it. We own our thoughts. We own whether we want to be positive or negative, and showing them that, look, it is okay. There are others that have been through loss that have gone forward. Whatever loss it is, it doesn't define you. Your business failing, you making a major mistake in your life, that does not define you. And so many people allow it to define them. They choose for it to define them. They choose the negative aspect of whatever happened. And the reality is, it's just a choice within them to say, you know what, I'm going to drive forward. I'm going to find happiness again. It's okay to be happy and do good things and still honor the loss of somebody like a family member, for instance, in our Gold Star community, or somebody that's lost a child or somebody close. It's okay. They can still be happy. And that's really what we have to convince them of. Life is nothing but a choice. Our brain and the way it functions, we're going back to Monday, and we have conditioned, so many people have conditioned themselves of, oh my God, it's Monday. I don't want Monday. I hate Mondays and all this other crap. That is a choice. You're choosing to allow this mindset that out there that Monday is a bad day. I choose that Monday is one of the greatest days of the week, because it's it's the first day of the week that I set the tone for the rest of my week. So if I project positivity, if I say these are the things that I'm doing to move the needle in the right direction, that's my choice. And it's setting me up for success. And I know it works because I've watched it happen, not just with me, but so many other people that I've worked with.
How does someone get the courage to ask for help? Because I got to imagine, you had to have help, right? And your recovery.
Absolutely.
And that was a huge recovery, right? There's things you couldn't do for a long time. Had to be humbling, had to be frustrating. But I got to imagine as well, once you owned it and said, you know what, I need help. I may need help for a year, but I won't need help for 21 years. How do we ask for help?
So once again, it comes back to perspective, understanding that you're not the only person that's ever been through this. There's a natural tendency, once again, to focus directly on ourselves. And we think we're the only person in the world that's been through this. So we feel weak if we were to ask somebody for help, oh, I'm too weak to do this on my own, so I don't want to reach out and admit that I have a problem. But there are over what 3 billion people in the world, I believe.
Like 7 billion.
7 billion. Thank you. I just exterminated 4 billion people. What a horrible person I am. 7 billion people. So somebody else has been through something much worse and probably much more complicated than you are going through. And it doesn't make it any better for you going through it, because we all live in our own personal hell. But if you have that perspective, you can understand, hey, I'm not the only one. And reaching out to ask somebody for help is critical. Now, how do we do that? How do we build that up? So one of the other things I'm teaching in this new book are 5 key areas that you have to lead yourself to be ready for these life ambushes. And if you lead yourself in these 5 areas, one, you're going to be better balanced as a leader, not only just for yourself, most critically for yourself, but it's going to set you up for success with others around you. It's physical leadership, how we take care of ourselves physically. It's mental leadership, how we gather knowledge, how we find mentorship, how we get ourselves outside of our comfort zone, how we implement change. It's emotional leadership, how we manage our emotions, both positive and negative. And this is the biggest one where it comes to asking for help: social leadership, how we build our rings of influence in the people we surround ourselves with. And those rings, that outermost ring, are your professional relationships. So those are our work relationships and the external influences of our life that, have an impact, but they're not quite friends. Within there, it becomes acquaintances, people we know. This is people we're closer to at work or maybe in the community. And then it gets down to our close friends. And then that innermost ring is our family. And so often here in America, I watch people that get this backwards. They're so focused on work, they're focused on their outer ring, those work relationships, and they don't put the time and effort into their close friends and their family. And when these major ambushes happen, it gets so much more difficult if you've been putting all this time into those outer rings instead of making sure you were putting time into the inner rings. If you've done this well, if you've been building these areas, especially in the social leadership realm, it makes it easier to reach out for help because you've built this. It makes it so much more difficult if you haven't put the time into those relationships. And now you're at ground zero. And not only are you struggling with the crisis you're going through, you're struggling with your own identity and making choices, positive choices in your life. Now you're really struggling trying to create momentum to get over the hurdle of who do I go ask for, because I haven't done a really good job building these relationships up to this point in my life.
Right. How do you develop a mentality of, embracing the suck, right? People that, we see on TV, we see buds, right? We see how hard it is, 3 weeks, hell week really sucks. And then they finish and then you get your trident. Oh, it's probably easy after that. Like you get to shoot and jump out of airplanes. But everyone I've spoken to are like, buds was nothing. It's way shittier after buds. And people they can't fathom that because they see so much misery on TV in buds. But how do you toughen yourself? Because most people typically we want to coast, right? We achieve something, get to the peak, and then ta-da, I'm here. But the reality is we can never rest, right? There's always an enemy. There's entropy, right? We're going to get fatter. We're going to get more competition. We got to keep pushing. How do you develop that mental toughness to embrace the suck?
So if you look at the most elite people in the world, Olympic athletes, your top elite business people in the world, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, people like that.
The sales whisperer. I know. Go ahead.
Exactly. Oh, yes, exactly. The sales whisperer. That's what I was trying to get off my tongue, and it just stuck in my brain. The elite people in the world are constantly pushing themselves. So I have a theory I talk about called the pyramid of change. The pyramid of change breaks it into 4 different levels of where people are in their lives. The very bottom level and the smallest level is people who really put forth no effort. They have no inner drive. They have no inner fire. They could care less whether they're successful or not. And most of them don't hold a job very long. A lot of them, if they're over 30, they're living in their parents' basement still. At the top end of the pyramid is the burnout zone. And a lot of us, I am guilty of this. I will live at this level if I'm not careful. I think I can do everything. I'm just grinding along. But the reality is I'm so overextended, I can't function at that level for long. And people will burn out. People will make mistakes. So you can't function in here. Most people live in the next two categories right in the middle. And the vast majority of people in the world live in the second tier. This is the comfort zone, and you said it. We have a natural tendency to achieve a level of success, and then we just want to coast. We want to, hey, I hit my success point. I hit the status quo. Yay for me. And they just want to coast along. The problem with that, just like you said, entropy occurs. We start to fall off. We start to get lazy. And you get soft, to be perfectly honest. The level above that is the zone of discomfort. Elite performers, like the sales whisperer, operate in that area where they're in the comfort zone and then they identify a new goal. It's not some monster goal. It's an attainable goal that they can achieve in a specific amount of time. And when they start pushing up to achieve that goal, it pushes them up into that zone of discomfort. Why? Because change is hard. Doing new things is hard. Grinding out new goals is hard. And at some point, though, you're going to achieve that goal. And when you've done it if you've done it for a while, suddenly that new goal that was in the zone of discomfort drifts into the zone of comfort. It now gets easy. And at that point, you have to set a new goal. Elite performers are in an endless loop going from the comfort zone to the zone of discomfort, comfort zone to the zone of discomfort. That is how they maintain these elite levels of success. They're constantly pushing back and forth. They know they can't operate in the zone of discomfort all the time. They definitely know they can't operate in the burnout zone. So that's what they're constantly doing. That is how the overcome mindset is forged. I tell people the easiest way to build it, the very first way, and it's beneficial to you because it goes back to my first level of the Pentagon, is physical leadership. Get out and work out. Push yourself. Working out is probably the simplest and easiest thing you can do where you can get outside your comfort zone. And it's all up here. It starts to build this mindset of, oh, I endured that. I made it in this run. I lost this weight. I lifted 5 more pounds than I did before. These are little mental victories. And these are things that we had to push through that discomfort to suddenly it becomes comfortable. And then from there, we start laying it out in other goals and areas of our lives.
Yeah, so true. I'd gotten kind of comfortable. And my buddy, you know John Doolittle?
Yeah, I know John.
So I went to the academy with him, and he was some sicko cross-commissioner in the Navy. And what was wrong with him? But anyway, he's like, yeah, you should do this swim with me. I'd never done an open water swim in my life. And I signed up for a 5K swim, right? I remember, dude, I panicked for 30 minutes. When I'm like, literally, I'm thinking, I'm literally going to die. I got a wife. I got all my kids. They're going to be orphans, and she's going to be a widow because I'm stupid and I'm swimming. I have no business. Like, what the hell? And man, once I just shook those cobwebs off, like I was so proud, right? I was so happy but to even have a goal for 6 months, I trained leading up to it. And it gave me something to do that was different, you know? And after getting through the freak out, I mean, you're so right. And now I'm doing jujitsu, been doing that for 2 years.
That's awesome.
You know, I'm sore. I got hurt all the time. My shoulder hurts, both hands hurt, knees hurt. Like, it gives me something. I know I'm alive because I'm hurting.
Yep. And jiu-jitsu is such a great thing. I did Jocko's podcast not that long ago, and we were talking about that. I myself want to get back into it. I haven't yet. I've been busy right now, but it's one of the things here shortly. It's one of my goals in the next couple of months. And jiu-jitsu is so good, you know, because not only is it physical, it is mental.
Oh, yeah.
It's a chess game. It's sucking up the discomfort when you've got somebody bigger and better than you on top of you, and they're pushing all their weight down on you, and you're trying to breathe, and you're trying to avoid, you know, getting that arm locked out or wrist locked out or whatever move they're going to try and put you in, and you're trying to counter it. I mean, That's awesome, man. That is life and strategy right there. I recommend everybody should study martial arts. I mean, I think it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not so much the big guys. I expect to lose to the big guys. It's the 21-year-old, 170-pound kid that tunes you up 2 or 3 times in a 6-minute session. You're going, what the hell just happened? Like, I'm a worthless human being. I should be a 0 belt. Just give me what's under a white belt.
I want the translucent belt.
I'm not worthy. Oh man.
So.
All right. So, so you mentioned Jocko. He's talked about this a lot, that, and I kind of experienced, first time I saw Doolittle after we graduated, he was already on the team. So it was years later. It was 12 years later, around 2004. And he said, yeah, meet me at a bar. He was up at the Defense Language up in Monterey. He's like, yeah, I'm meeting some other team guys. So I'm expecting to see these superhuman dudes, right? Like Hulk Hogan. And cause we all have this vision, this idea. And these dudes were little.
Like me.
Yeah. Like you, man. I mean, we got to zoom out.
I'm
we got
7
a wide frame.
I'm 7'1" and 320.
And these were
in my mind.
These were little guys, right? And Jocko talked about it. He's like, these elite athletes usually fail. It's the guys that can just grind it out because it's mental.
Yep.
And I forget who I had on, one of the team guys. I think it was Bruce. He said, yeah, it's real easy to be a SEAL. Don't quit. Right? I was like, yeah, I never really thought about that way. But literally, I mean, obviously, as long as you can pass the physical, literally anybody could become a SEAL if they don't quit.
Yep.
And that's true in life, right? Anybody can be an entrepreneur. Anybody in sales could be the top salesperson at their company. Anybody could be a great husband, a great wife. But do we have these false images, right? I'm not that big and tough. I'm not a world Olympic swimmer. I could never make the teams or whatever. But it's, how do we get people how do we burst those myths and say, you got it in you to be the best. You just got to wanna, right?
Once again, I think it comes back to choice. It comes back to that overcome mindset. Some people quit because of the pain and misery in the moment. There's no doubt about that. They're unwilling to grind through the discomfort. But the vast majority of times that people quit, it's because they've convinced themselves. It has nothing to do with the pain and discomfort, and it has everything to do with that little voice that tells them, you cannot do it. You are not an entrepreneur. You are not a jiu-jitsu guy. You're not a Navy SEAL. You're not a business guy. You're not a speaker. You're not a doctor. Whatever it is, whatever lies we want to tell ourselves, that's why people quit. It is that little voice inside your head. When I went through Ranger School and I had made all those mistakes and I failed and I started to quit Ranger School, I didn't quit because Ranger School was hard. I was quitting because I had convinced myself that I no longer had what it took to be a SEAL leader. And that's what I believed in that moment. I'd planted this big dark seed of doubt inside my head. And thank God I had a leader who believed in me, who, shook some sense into me and convinced me that it's never too late. No matter how far down at rock bottom you are, people will follow you if you give them a reason to. And that's what he told me, which was the most succinct, sound leadership advice I've ever been given. And to this day is still the best leadership advice I've ever been given. And that moment forward, it ignited a flame of hope within me. And I tell people, don't listen to that little voice inside your head. As long as you have a realistic goal, you can achieve it. Within the realm of reason. If you're like me and you're a 5'8" guy who weighs 170 pounds, if I tell you my goal is to be a lineman in the NFL and I'm 44 years old, chances are that's not going to happen. There's no amount of steroids and HGH on the planet that will get me up competitive against a lineman. But if we have realistic goals, if someday I say I want to be the sales whisperer, it's a lofty goal, but I can do it. As long as I convince myself that, hey man, you can do this no different than Wes can. You know, anybody out there could do what I'm doing. Go find some things that, you know, you failed forward, have some successes in life, work on your speaking abilities. You too can get out there and deliver an amazing message. Look at Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a perfect example of a guy who really came from nowhere. He had had some hard times in his life. He spent this whole period of time basically reinventing himself. And then he got out there and delivered this amazing message of self-realization and self-empowerment. And now he is the most recognized motivational speaker in the world. So the only thing stopping anyone from accomplishing greatness in this life is you.
Yep. I remember old Zig Ziglar would say, you know, positive thinking, that motivational thinking, it won't help you do anything, but it will help you do anything you do better.
Yep.
You know, so stop that stinking thinking.
That's right.
Well, man, thanks for coming on the show. Where should we send people? I mean, your second book will be out in December. Your first book's already available, right? The Trident.
That's right.
Mentioned that. Send them to Amazon, send them to your website. Where do you want them to go?
Well, if they'd like a signed copy of the Trident, I would recommend they go to jasonredman.com. And from there, you can get a signed copy. Make sure you write in the notes if you want me to personalize it to you, because if you don't write anything, I don't know if it's for you or if it's somebody else. So I don't personalize it if there's no notes. Through my website, we also have our new coaching platform that's getting ready to launch next week, the Overcome Army. So it is a group coaching program for individuals who are looking for positive motivation, weekly classes on leadership, resiliency, teamwork, structure, goal setting. And you are in a private group with like-minded individuals who are trying to make a difference. And then on social media, you can find me on Facebook at Jason Redman, and I am big time on Instagram, Jason Redman WW, and Twitter, Jason Redman WW.
Very cool. So the Overcome Army, is that live now?
It will launch next week.
Okay, cool.
So, yep, it will launch next week.
Is it an ongoing thing, or is it like a 6-week or 12-week?
Nope. It is an ongoing thing. Yeah,
cool.
Once you sign up, the once-a-week class and question and answers after the class, and then also there is the ability to interact with me, of course, in that private group.
Right. And then I'm seeing see you on Instagram. I mean, you're doing a lot more keynote speaking now, right?
I am ramping up, so definitely getting out there and just trying to provide tremendous value to companies, you know, help them build better leaders and build better structure within their company, within their people, build better teams, teaching them how to get people off the X. Man, it's just amazing how many people, when you tell them that analogy, whether they're in a company or in their own individual life, go, oh my God, you know, I've been sitting on the X. I'm XYZ. And it's been really exciting.
Right. Very cool. So if they want to hire you for speaking, that's on your website as well, I imagine.
Yep. Right there at the front of the website says book now, or if you'd like to see me in action, right on the front of the website is a great new video we just put together of a bunch of really motivational speaking clips from a bunch of different events I've done.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, man. Jason Redman, all the way from Virginia, baby. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast again. It's been great.
Yeah, man, Wes, thanks so much. You know, shout out to the Air Force, saving my life. So I love you guys. I won't knock you anymore. My whole military career, I knocked you down, and I can't do it anymore. I gotta salute my Air Force brethren. I wouldn't be here without you.
Amen, baby. We can pick on each other, but only because we love each other.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, brother.